discussion by council vote or other action on upcoming bond referendum facilities plan, stage 2 ride application. So I attended a school committee meeting in September, and we had a discussion with the school. I was with the bond committee, the promotional committee. Mr. Connell was here this evening from the school committee, and we had a discussion about the status of the facilities plan. And the school committee was to be weighing in on its opinion about the plan and its support and so forth. And it was clear at that meeting that the superintendent was recommending an immediate small group meeting of representatives from the council, the school committee, the administrator, and the superintendent. And there have been 2 of those meetings that have taken place in this building since then. And I will say that they've been very productive. And the focus has been on the school facilities portion of the plan that's going to be going to voters on November 4th. And I think there was at least some consensus on the part of the people who were in the room about the change that needs to occur in the plan. We have in our packets a letter from the school committee chairman that discusses and outlines the meeting that the school committee had just a few days ago on October 1st, where it took a vote and it formalized its request to the town council for consideration of an amendment to the plan. It's one that I support wholeheartedly, and that amendment is to leave building number 10 at Hallowell intact, to not demolish it, demolish everything else, but leave 10 as it is for badly needed storage. The school committee and the school superintendent have suggested that that building does not require any immediate work to be done, so they would say just leave it as is. That doesn't affect the cost of the plan. So that was one point. I'm going to, as soon as I describe the other one, then I'll ask Mr. Connell if he wants to comment. The other one centers around this issue of the stage 2 application to the Department of Education for reimbursement eligibility. And folks may remember that the council last took action on that, or actually didn't take action on that in May 18th. Is when that came before us, and the council elected at that time to not proceed with the stage 2 application. At that time, instead, deciding to wait until after the referendum to invest the $31,000 in change to complete the stage 2 application. We had already received the stage 1 approval from RIDE, felt pretty good about that, and we have later learned that in fact the process we followed, the fact that we didn't submit a stage 2 application does not conform to RIDE regulations. And so the discussion that we had in the small group was that it would be advisable for the town to proceed with the stage 2 at this time. We have budgeted the money in the contingency infrastructure account to do that. And the recommendation from the school committee was to proceed with that immediately, even knowing that we would still have a response until after the election. The superintendent has been in touch with RIDE and still feels confident that we can earn the reimbursement. And so the letter we have in our packet stated October 2nd to me from Mr. LaFleur, and the 2 things that said the school committee did vote to support the project with the following changes and stipulations. 1, building number 10 at Hallowell School location remain intact with no renovations in order to address badly needed storage issues within the school department. 2, there be an aggressive pursuit of reimbursement following the RIDE path regulations have established. And 3, request that the town council vote in support of the above changes, including the stage 2 approval previously budgeted by the town council and subsequent completion so the project's eligibility for reimbursement can be determined. So my intention was to recommend to the council this evening that we amend the facilities plan that we last amended on August 18th to include the provision of leaving building number 10 intact. And then secondly, I'll be asking for a vote or a motion to proceed with the stage 2 application following proposal that was in our packets on May 15th. So the proposal hasn't changed, the amount remains the same, and those are the two recommendations. But before we open it up to council discussion, I wanted to call upon Mr. Connell to offer any insight or observations from your perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Bill Connell, 29 Maple Avenue. We really don't have much to add to this, the chairman's presentation tonight. The letter does state before you the main issue brought up at the last school committee meeting. Again, Chairman Flaherty kind of outlined what's going on in the last month pretty effectively. I'm just here from this in my capacity as a school committee liaison. If there's any questions that arise in this discussion, I can help you with. I'd be happy to try and answer them. I think the letter is pretty self-explanatory. And again, I would point, obviously, the vote is coming up in November 4th, so a lot of this is contingent on what happens on November 4th, but we'd like to be, if it does pass, we'd like to have these things, 10 being a building that we can use the storage for. And it really is, as Chairman Flaherty says, it's not going to hurt the project by having 10 there, by keeping building 10 up. Everything else, from what I see, the other buildings would still be great, how the rest of the palette would still be leveled, sealed off, and so we would have that one building there, and that's really the crux here. As far as pursuit of the stage 2 support, yeah, it's something we need to do. Many of you read the Journal today. It was, actually a very interesting article in the Providence Journal about different districts and what they were pursuing, and I was kind of interested in how I think Cranston had been saying they were pursuing it for several years, actually pursuing it. So yeah, we're taking an aggressive stance on this, and but we see an opportunity we're trying to pursue. So that's all I have to say right now.
Any questions for Mr. Connell?
I do, Mr. President, possibly to you as well. So if this is amended and building 2 remains for storage,
Building 10.
Up?
10.
Building 10, what did I say?
2.
Sorry, I have written 10 when I said 2.
It's,
I am familiar with the building. Does this mean that the school department would retain control over the entire site, land and everything else?
it's a legal question, but I believe it would. Because it would
Okay.
still be, I believe it would because building 10 would be used by the school department for storage of school materials. So if you're asking the school, yeah, who would be in, and I don't want to cut you off, I'm just anticipating the next question. School department, it was mentioned at the last meeting, because Mr. Kopaz actually talked about this. They would be in charge of, any type of plan we had to do in maintaining that road. But again, it's not something that there would be, you wouldn't have students down there, so your maintenance wouldn't be anywhere near what it is when we have Halliwell School.
Mr. Connell, sometimes I ask the question, I already know the answer, yes? Okay. Part 2, Mr. Flaherty, the facilities review for the bond, have they been appraised of this development of retaining, what are their feelings on retaining building 10?
Well, just as a reminder, the Public Facilities Advisory Task Force, their work was completed in January when the final recommendation was taken to council. So we did reconvene that group at one time to have a discussion about some changes. There was no objections. At that time, I think that we discussed demolition of the entire site versus the fence. And this is actually consistent with the original plan that I believe retained 2 buildings. It was 10 and one other building. So conceptually, the other thing I try to remind folks of with this facilities task force is that it was never intended for that group to get into the level of detail of whether it should have 2 buildings for storage or 1 building for storage. It was really their task, was it included folks from all facets of the town. And its purpose was to look at this from 30,000 feet and any broad recommendations about the use of facilities, which should be retained, which should come down, how we could consolidate certain functions. But it was never intended to get into that level of detail. So I think that's an issue that I think rests with the council. And it's my recommendation, having met with the superintendent and Mr. Connell and Mr. Pachetti from the school committee, that the storage space is needed, and as long as it doesn't require any renovations, it doesn't change the cost of the building. In fact, if anything, it saves some money because there wouldn't need to be an expenditure to raise that building.
Another question
Yes.
to the administrator, under her capacity as public safety director. Madam Administrator, your thoughts?
No, I was in the several meetings, with that small group, and I agree that, one of the things that we have to focus on too is getting the stage 2 approved. Looking at keeping building 10, it definitely makes sense after we hear from Mr. Kopaz and Mr. Lindbergh, the amount of, material they have to store. They just don't have the space. They're taking up space that could be otherwise utilized either for, classroom space or some other, type of space. So it would either be erecting something in brick and mortar that would provide them with the opportunity to have the storage, or get a steel building or something of that nature. But any of those options would add to the cost of the project, where what we've all come to a conclusion on is that we're not going to be adding anything to this. It'll serve the purpose of providing what they need long-term, even short-term. We discussed if there were any other issues that came up, if we had a great idea from someone that, wanted to utilize that particular piece of land, would they be amenable to discussing, portioning off some of that land?
That's
It was
a very important point.
It was a very good 2 days of discussion, really good. I mean, I think we understood each other and each other's, these aren't just wants, these are needs. And the care and custody of that location, as Mr. Connell said, it's inconsequential really as far as, upkeep, maintenance. It's not going to be a big adjustment for them to do that. They'll be plowing anyway. So I think all in all, moving ahead on the stage 2, I think is very important too, so that we can access potentially some reimbursement funding for that, and, moving that along. We didn't disagree on that either.
Thank you.
So at this time, I would entertain a motion to amend the facilities plan as last amended on August 18th, 2014, to include provision for retaining building number 10 at Caldwell without any renovations at this time. Is there a motion to approve that? I'll make the motion to approve it. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman McGee. Is there any further discussion? It sounds like maybe there should be some further discussion. It sounds like maybe there's not a level of confidence. Are there any questions that people have? Okay.
I'm just concerned that, yes, we had negotiations and we had dialogue with the current school committee that future use of the land would be amenable for discussion. When we face this 5-6 years from now, and some opportunity comes for the town, I don't know, I just see us revisiting this discussion again over and over again, how that property is to be used.
Well, one of the things that I learned from our 2 meetings, because there were some boards in the superintendent's office that depicted this. These are some older drawings at one time that showed 2 schools on that property. There was an elementary school and a middle school. And interestingly, there was still a fair amount of land left for some other type of development. And so now we're talking about not having any schools on it for the foreseeable future. But I've always been a proponent of the town keeping that land and not selling it, so that we may not have a need for a school now. We may not have it for 5 years or 10 years, but who knows, 15 or 20. And the last time the town had to go out and search for land, it wasn't an easy task. And so I've always been a proponent of reserving that for future school use. And the superintendent and the members of the school committee who were in attendance at that meeting indicated they're very open to their, if the town does have an opportunity, we can come back and look at it and say, does it make sense to bifurcate the property? And it's got its own separate ingress, egress to Green Street, to School Street, as well as off of 102, a great road. So there's a lot of options there, and if it seems to make sense, it sounds like that there's an open-mindedness.
If it eases anybody's mind, one of the possibilities is to subdivide that such that the top section, which is open and upland, can be separated from the bottom section, which would then be sufficient to build another elementary school in the future if that should be needed. And what you would do is have Joe Casale come in and test the subbase. It's probably built to town road standards. You can consider that a town road. You could put 55 plus on the top side, and if there were a school in the future, or even if there's just a storage space, the presence of a residential community would make the whole area safer. And those things are possible. And I think that will probably be the first step before you go for the whole, I think you need to keep that as an asset for at least 5 or 6 years, maybe 10 years. But you can create asset value with a subdivision, and that's one of the possibilities. On the top side.
So we have a motion, it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions? And just as a reminder, the motion is to approve amending the facilities plan to include a provision that allows building 10 to remain as is without renovations for storage.
Mr. President,
Mr. Yadvar.
for the record, I don't care whether you add 10 or you don't add 10. I'm not in support of the bond referendum to begin with. I'm already on record for saying that, but I'm not going to stand in the way here tonight.
Okay. So I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Yazdi,
Yes, I'm 10.
Mr. Zelinski.
Yes.
Mr. Flaherty.
Yes, motion carries. The next motion that I would seek is, let's see how to phrase this, a motion to take an aggressive pursuit of reimbursement. Actually, why don't we just call for a motion to approve the RGB proposal dated May 15th, 2014, to perform the Stage 2 analysis to RIDE for reimbursement in a total amount of $31,200. That would be covered in the town's contingency infrastructure line item that was anticipated when we did the budget. Is there a motion to approve? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Seconded by Councilor Zulinski.
Mr. Flaherty, my memory's not as good as it once was, never was. But I believe back on May 18th, there was a motion to wait to approve the second phase until we had bond approval. And that motion was defeated 3-2, not to approve it. I believe I came back and made a motion to approve the 31,000, I'm going to round down, so that we could move forward on this. And was there ever, we never voted on that. There was no second, nobody voiced an opinion whether we should do it or not. We're back full circle.
You're correct. And I went back and looked at the tape from that meeting, and you're absolutely correct that it was partly my fault because I made a motion to not take action, which is just counterintuitive. You don't take a motion to not act. You only motion to take an action. And I think there was some confusion about that in that first vote. And when that first vote, I'm trying to think if it failed or if it passed, because it's sort of a double negative. But in any case, the end result was that we didn't proceed. And then when it was pointed out to me by the solicitor that it was done incorrectly, we then entertained a motion, which Councilor Zelinski did motion, to approve this application, this proposal that we have again before us tonight. And there was no second, so there was just no action taken. And we're back here now in October, and I'm making the motion that we proceed with the application. This is going to come out of the contingency infrastructure, and the cost is a cost that it's relates to a proposal from RGB, the architects who've been working on this project, to complete the Rhode Island Department of Education Stage 2 application for reimbursement eligibility. We've already received the Stage 1 approval, which is a sort of conceptual approval, and at this point they've got to really dig in and do a lot more of the engineering to substantiate the cost and to show exactly what is going to be done. We've heard a lot about it needing to conform to the health and life safety issues, because that's what's going to get approved by RIDE and nothing further. That comes at a cost of $31,200.
Mr. President,
Mr.
I
Zelinski.
admire you being magnanimous and trying to take a hit for the five of us. The motion was made, it wasn't seconded, it wasn't your fault. But we're full circle. You've made the motion, I've seconded it, let's call a vote.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Yazdi.
once again, I'm not going to stand in its way, but I'm not supporting the bond issue, but I will vote for the reimbursement.
So the motion, question,
Why,
just please step to the microphone, Mr. Budget Committee Chair, and state your name for the record.
Mike Clifford, 489 Black Plain Road. I am curious, I don't understand the logic here. Could you just explain it to us so that we do understand it? First of all, when you say that the contingency funds for this stage 2 application were budgeted, I thought it was a gross amount, and I didn't think it specified what the needs were going to be. We exhausted the contingency fund account this past year for unanticipated expenditures. The second issue is, if with 4 weeks left before the election, with Mr. Yazbek saying he's not supporting the bond issue, why, with only 4 weeks between now and the day of the balloting, are we spending $31,000 when it might not be approved by the voters, or it might be approved by the voters? Is there an urgency to submitting it at this point, or is there the ability to wait another 4 weeks? I'm missing something.
No, it's a legitimate question, and what I'll tell you is that in the meetings that we've had with the superintendent and the school committee, Mr. Lindbergh related his conversations with the Department of Education, and he related to us that he believed that it was still something that we could salvage and get the reimbursement, but that we were going to need to act very quickly to get the process going because it involves a lot of work. And even though you point out right that we're talking about, we've got 4 weeks till the election, those are still 4 critical weeks to get the work done. To answer your first question about the question you said about we didn't specifically identify sub-items within the contingency infrastructure, you're correct. However, if you go back and look at the tape of the June meetings, June 16th I think it may have been, when we set the budget, and we discussed the contingency infrastructure, we did say we had 2 things that we knew about that we needed the budget for, and one of them is this.
Stand corrected, you're correct, I remember the conversation.
So we have a motion been discussed. I'd ask, voting yes means that we would proceed with this. So I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Yazbek?
Yes.
Mr. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Flurry?
Yes, motion carries. And that brings us to item E, under old business, discussion by council, vote, or other action on Nicholson and Associates LLC regarding tax abatements / tax assessor's office. This is the issue of the review that the council voted to undertake. Just as a quick refresher, June 2nd, the problem was dropped in our laps. I believe that it was the next meeting, June 16th, I believe it was, that we took action to put an RFP out for services, and I believe that it was at the next meeting, July 21st, I think it was July 21st, that the council acted to contract with Mr. Nicholson's office, and Councilor Yazbak had offered on 2 occasions his services to work with the town administrator on the scope of work and so forth, and to shepherd us through. So, Mr. Yazbak.
Mr. President, I was assured or promised by Mr. Nicholson that we'd have a report tonight, knowing that the agenda item needed to be put in for last Wednesday. I called his office, I emailed him, I sent him left him a voicemail, texted with him. The only response I got at that point in time was a text last Thursday night that said that he would be in contact with me. The deadline for today's meeting was, I think, more than adequately communicated. I don't know why I haven't gotten a phone call. I understand subsequent that the president has discussed with him, so maybe I know you're in a much better position to probably comment at this point in time. I have no idea exactly what the holdup is. I don't know why we don't have a report for tonight, even though I was promised that 3 weeks ago or even longer, knowing full well what the deadline was. I can make a number of assumptions, but they would all be conjecture. The only other correspondence that I saw was an email late this afternoon, which I was copied on, directed to the president. So with all due respect to the council president, I'm kind of at the point right here where I think the council president is probably in a better position to take this over and continue it, because obviously, for whatever reason, I've been omitted from the discussion. Whether that was by accident, on purpose, whatever, I don't care. I got 3 meetings left. I really don't need anything more. I'm in the middle of construction and moving an office. So by all means, Mr. President, if you can add anything else, but I have nothing to report because nobody's conversed with me.
Well, it was actually that was what Mr. Yazbek just described, which was the reason that I reached out to Mr. Nicholson for the first time on October 2nd, which was last Thursday, I believe. I was frustrated because it's been on our agenda. We had it on for updates twice in September, and like you, I realized we've got 3 meetings left after this, and want to bring this to closure. I would appreciate it if you would continue to offer the council in town your services as a CPA to see this through. The reason I reached out to him, quite frankly, was that I needed to hear from him. What's the status? We've got 3 meetings left, and it's my job as council president to keep these things on the agenda and bring it to closure. And I know that you hadn't heard anything further, and so I picked up the phone and I called him, and I got him on the phone. And I said, we need to get this thing done. And the latest email that you referenced, he indicated that he would plan to be here for October 20th, and he would deliver his findings and recommendations in an open session. There was a question as to whether or not he had suggested that he thought that the council would benefit by having an executive session with him, and I'm not exactly sure why, although I realize that there are some the provisions for having an executive session have to do with job performance or collective bargaining. And so I don't know because I haven't discussed this with him, but I'd like to reserve the opportunity. Our meeting on the 20th right now, the schedule is pretty light, so I'd like to reserve the opportunity and perhaps confer with the solicitor about whether an executive session is even warranted. I don't know that it is. I'm not convinced that it is, but I want to see this thing brought to closure, and he's assured me that he will be here on the 20th.
So, Mr. President, with all due respect, I've kind of, for whatever reason, been, removed from the process, and like I said, no hard feelings. I got plenty of other things to do. So if there's really not much for me to do going forward, so we'll just plan on Mr. Nicholson being here at the 20th. You seem to have an open dialogue with him. I
had one conversation.
Yeah, well, but it's more than I've had in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I would strongly recommend that you continue that dialogue. For whatever reason, my calls aren't being, and my emails are not being returned. And that's fine. And then we'll look forward to it on the 20th, whether it's an executive session or not. The whole thing about the adequacy of the abatements, though, and the conversation that we had earlier on a related subject still has me baffled, because I thought for sure that I sat in this room and the administration was telling me how they were going through, independent of the forensic audit, independent of the financial statement audit, forensic audit Nicholson, financial statement audit Pomeroy, Gloria, that they were going through this process of trying to get their hands around the $750,000 of abatements to see if they were warranted, to go back and to see if they had the information, to understand where the files were, to recreate or reach out to taxpayers to recreate documentation trails, etc. And now I guess tonight I'm understanding that none of that's been done, or a limited amount of that's been done, or whatever, because I tell you, the issue that 13, 14 abatements is different than 14, 15 abatements. I mean, maybe I'm just dense.
Well,
Maybe
can I ask
maybe
you a
I'm just
question?
stupid, I don't know, but that's not what I've been listening or understanding the last few months. Maybe it's my fault for not asking more pointed and questions, but I honestly thought that the administration was working on this. Why else were people being camped out? Why else did we have Mr. Booth come in? Why else do we have another new tax assessor here? Why? And if that means I have to wait till the 20th, I guess I'll throw my questions out there now on the table, and everybody can consider the answers, and they can tell me in 2 weeks.
I'd like to, I'm just curious to know if you had any insight into what the reason was for the drop-off, because in July 21st at our meeting, you reported to the council that you had met with Mr. Nicholson, you had met with Parmalee Poirier, we discussed scopes, and I was happy I'm very happy actually to have you doing that, because you've got that expertise, and it was something that I didn't need to delve into, because frankly my learning curve would have been too steep. So I'm at a loss to understand why that contact, that the meeting contact that you were having with both of those firms came to an end.
Well, that meeting contact that I had with both firms was to solicit a proposal to come back to council. And that was the purpose of the meeting. The purpose of the meeting with Parmalee Poirier was to either issue a separate proposal from them to do the forensic work, or to have them add on to their audit, and/or at the recommendation of a few people, we put in touch with Mr. Nicholson, and I brought that back to the council. But I haven't had a meeting with, because I don't want, it's not up to me to tell people how to do their jobs. Either firm, and I'll say it again, I think either firm has been, will serve, has served, will continue to serve the town well. I'm a little disappointed at the lack of communication, and the lack of communication wasn't what details are you doing in your audit, how are you doing your audit. The lack of communication dealt with, is your report ready? Are you going to be coming in front of the town council? Are you ready to give your report? Do you know the deadline is going to be, it was supposed to be in August, and then the deadline was extended through September, and now we want you here for October 3rd. Do you understand that? We had a firm understanding of that, but I've never injected myself. I don't do that kind of work, number one, so I don't know that I could inject myself other than a global understanding. But I never injected myself into either Parmalee and Poirier's work, because they're doing some continued work in this area, because they have to do it for their financial statement audit. And I've never told Nicholson what to do, how to do it, where to go. My conversation, once Nicholson was hired by the town council, was to just try to keep them communications and contact open, so that we knew what the deadlines were. We missed the deadline in September. Yeah, it was basically, we have a lot of work to do. We have to talk to people. We haven't been able to talk to people. We haven't been able to meet with people, but we'll be ready to go October 3rd. And then to go back and forth and try to get some kind of response as, well, are you ready for October 3rd or aren't you? Well, I got no response, unfortunately. I don't know if there's a communication breakdown there. I don't know if I'm responsible. Whatever it is. So it's good to hear that we got an email today that's October 20th, but with all due respect to the council president, I never got into the detail of telling a professional how they should go about doing their audit. Number one, I thought if I ever did that, it would be injecting politics into the thing, and or the perception of politics, and I don't want that perception. It's not Ed Yazbek against the world on this thing. What it is $750,000 coming in on June 2nd, June 3rd, whatever the date was, with no backup, very little, and here approve it when we never, number one, ever had the history of that kind of an amount. So I don't know what Mr. Nicholson has done. I don't know I know overall what his procedures were. I know he wanted to interview people. I understand that's happened. I know he wanted to go back and look through the system. I understand that's happened. But I think you're under misinformation if you thought that I was delving into any kind of, you're going to do this, and this because this is what we want you to do. You have to leave these things up to the professionals, especially with this kind of thing, because you go down one road, you can hit a dead end. You go down another road, it could open up 3 more roads that you got to go down to investigate and come back. and solidified. So I hope that is a good understanding of what my position has been. So my position has only been to, can you get the work done? Make sure you're not meeting with, make sure that you're getting some kind of cooperation, and if I heard that they weren't in cooperation, I would have brought it to the council's attention. But basically, they're on their way to do it. I don't know where Palmerly and Poirier stand with their audit, but part of their audit is also going to be some kind of rendering of an opinion on these abatements, because it's going to be material to the financial statements. And depending on how it goes, it may create or may not create a deficit. So, because I know everybody agreed that we were looking at a potential deficit or, at best. Yeah, we were told we were looking at that, and it was just a matter of how much. Now, whether that comes to fruition, with the audit, I don't know. But that's exactly what my process has been here. It hasn't been, let me meet with Nicholson and let me give you 57 suggestions of what you should do. I haven't given, my job has been, look, we got a deadline in September. We missed that deadline. I want you here in October. And, for whatever reason, whether it's a lack of communication, whether he didn't get the messages, whether I did something to upset him. I'm just not getting the return phone calls and the reply emails, but you are, so I would say, I would ask you as council president, since the communication seems to be open with you, if you make sure we can talk about it October 20th, I'd be a real happy person.
Well, that was my latest email to him, was to confirm that he will be here on the 20th. And we did hire them the 21st of July. It was with the understanding that there needed to be a point person on the council, because this was a review of an administrative department. And my understanding was that you would offer to be that point person, helping the council understand the steps that were being followed, and the timetable, and so on and so forth. The long and the short of it is, it sounds like he's going to be here on the 20th. The only question is, and I'm happy to talk with the solicitor about whether or not it warrants an executive session or not, and I can talk with the solicitor off about that. And mark the calendar, we'll have a presentation on the 20th.
And Mr. President, just speaking for me, I don't want it to just only be an executive session. If there's some items of the report that should be an executive session, then maybe Mr. Nicholson should be told to make 2 reports. One that's for executive session that deals with union issues and/or job performance issues, and then another session that's going to be in public session that's going to talk about the cause of the matter. Because if this thing is just an executive session,
That's my understanding.
All right.
That it would require both. But I'm just not convinced that an executive is.
I'm not convinced either, so I think your concerns are well founded.
Okay. All right, so we can move on from this to new business. We have 4 items left, and we have about 15 minutes. And at this time, and this is one of the concerns that I have, frankly, I just wanted to state this about managing an agenda. We had, an item that took a lot more time than anybody anticipated, and I hate to cut it off, but it's because of this. And I know that the council generally is not welcoming of extending past 10 o'clock. So I would entertain a motion at this time to extend to 10:15 so that we can complete the 4 remaining items on the agenda.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we extend to 10:30. Of course, if we adjourn earlier, that's fine.
Motion by Councilor Zawinski, is there a second? I'll second it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. McGee.
No.
Mr. Yazdi.
Doesn't matter, one
Yeah.
voted though.
Okay, that's a unanimous. So we've got 15 minutes to finish, and I'm going to start right into item C, because Mr. Broadhead's been very patient sitting here all evening, and this is discussion by council, vote or other action on streetlight savings proposal. And I have it listed as PRISM, which I know is a program that Mr. Broadhead runs, and I would like to welcome you to the meeting, Mr. Broadhead, and thank you for your patience.
Quite welcome. You're assuming I'm patient. I'm handing it out to them right now. And I am patient. I go to many town council meetings in many towns.
So you know the drill.
It only hurts when it's my own.
Where are we entertaining? Where are we
For the record, my name is Jeff Broadhead. I'm a resident of Narragansett. I'm the executive director of both the Washington County Regional Planning Council and PRISM, which is a partnership of municipalities, a partnership for island streetlight management. And I guess my choice is to talk really fast or leave a whole lot out. I think you'd probably prefer it if I left a whole lot out. So if you,
Mr. President.
excuse me?
Excuse me, Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Would you be amenable to coming back where you would not be rushed and give us a great presentation?
Well,
And I'll buy you dinner for your, we're gonna go out for dinner that night.
I cannot be bribed.
No, it's not a bribe,
Yeah.
this way I'll force myself to eat that night.
If we could proceed, it would be very helpful, and I will be back shortly because there's a second item that will be coming up, which I'll give you much more detail on.
Hang on.
Make it for 15, if we have to go on 15.
I'd
The
like
only
to-
reason I said 30 was we could adjourn.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it shorter. I was hoping you'd do that and then you stop. 15 minutes, I'd like to make it, extend the meeting for 15 minutes to 10:15.
Motion by Councilor McGee, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Zawinski, is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Mr. Gasper?
Yes.
Mr. Yancey, Mr. Flowerday?
Yes. Jeff, you have a little more breathing room.
Thank you. I'll still go quickly. The action that you're asked to do tonight is to allow your administrator to sign a non-binding letter of intent with PRISM, which simply says that you're allowing us as PRISM to represent you with National Grid, not in a legal sense representing you, but to try to get to a real purchase price for your streetlights. So it's a very simple action. If it proves well, in about a couple of weeks, I can come back with a real contract on it. We don't have the contracts ready. So the very briefest background, the briefest that I can do on it, is 2 years ago, when I was looking at energy bills for multiple municipalities for 13 towns, I realized that streetlights are overcharged. Now, it's completely legal. It is a rate that's developed by National Grid, it's approved by the Public Utilities Commission, and all of the towns have paid it for decade after decade after decade. Okay? It is a ripoff. And when I did my research, I thought it was a $2 to $3 million problem statewide. Once we developed, and I was also told you can't do anything about it, you can't fix it, back off, go do something else. And that didn't sit very well with me. So we wrote legislation, it passed, the Municipal Streetlights Investment Act, which allows towns to take their lights away from National Grid, own their lights, and manage them in a collaborative maintenance program, which is what PRISM was developed to do. The savings are mammoth. I estimated $2 to $3 million statewide. I was wrong. In the Public Utilities Commission, National Grid admitted that their expenses, if all of the towns buy their lights, their expenses will drop by $2.1 million. Okay, that's about what we thought it would be. We actually thought it was 2.3. Their revenue will drop by $10.2 million. So for what they're expending $2.1 million for, they're charging you, municipalities, $10.2 million. Now, this is a regulated utility. Doesn't quite fit. So we wrote the legislation passed. We've been in the Public Utilities Commission for a year. In August, they finished most of their work. They approved almost everything we wanted. So what you can do right now is you have 1,500 streetlights, more or less, for which you're paying somewhere in the range of $240,000 a year. PRISM will save you $90,000 a year. I mean, it's a significant number. It's only possible because you are so grossly overcharged. You and every other town in the state. There's nothing special about North Smithfield in this case. It's a special town, but not in this case. The PRISM, it will be managed. I'll be the staff person managing it. The work is being done by a professional group called Solux, who manages streetlights across the country for municipalities. What National Grid is charging you on average, $94 per light per year, just for the maintenance. This is not the power, this is not the distribution, this is just the maintenance. We're charging on average $94 per light. We're going to be charging less than $25. I believe in North Smithfield's case, some of the more sophisticated controls would not work because we're such a rural community. You'll be more in that $17 to $18 range per light instead of $94. So it's a significant savings. And in order to do that, you have to expend some money to buy the lights. I'm not asking you to do that now. this is a couple of months down the road, your purchase price is estimated at $67,000. For that, you'll save $90,000 a year. So it's well less than a year payback. There have been major wins along the way. This was we developed the legislation. Once we got the Public Utilities Commission, the League of Cities and Towns jumped in to help us because, quite frankly, we ran out of money as an organization. We wrote the legislation which said that the PUC had 60 days to complete their work. They took a year, and that was a year of sitting at the table with multiple attorneys and consultants. And so it was bankrupt in our little organization, not legally, because the league helped us. But the fight is still going on. I always bring one or two props. The only issue that's outstanding, well, first, let me ask you, this is a little piece of rubber, okay? It has a fuse in it. This is a wooden facsimile of a fuse. This costs about $12, okay? We saved the towns $37 million from this one little piece. National Grid said, you have to install these immediately upon buying your lights. It's a disconnect. It allows somebody working on the lights to pop this, and then they can work safely on the lights. I talked to a man who runs a company who installs these nationally. They've installed more than 4 million of these. And I said, how often do you have to turn the power off to connect this in? And he said, never. We've never had to do that. What National Grid wanted you to do as a town was to bring National Grid crew out there, turn the power off on that whole circuit from the transformer. Then have your own crew come out, snip the wire and install this thing, which would take literally 1 minute, and then have Grid Street come back out and repower the circuit later. They charge $136 each visit. Our crew would be about $75 each visit. So it would have been about $340 total to install a $12 piece. What we want on your behalf is the ability to do this when you do service. And because these streetlights only last about 2 years, and then you have to have service, this is going to cost literally the $12 that it costs to buy it and no extra maintenance charge. That's the kind of issue we've been facing, and we've been advocating on your behalf and all the other municipalities. So all we're asking you tonight is to allow Ms. Hamilton to sign the letter of intent and authorize us to work with National Grid to refine the purchase price. It's been a really fun project, and I'd be happy to talk more about it.
And by doing that, Jeff, that would essentially allow you to come back and to describe to the town council more specifically what the savings would be if we chose to move forward.
Yes.
And you need to get approval from the council in order to request what the town is doing.
That's great. It varies town by town. In some towns, the administrator or the town manager has chosen to just sign a letter. Other towns, I've been before the town council. I just completely defer to the administrator as to whether I'm asked to come to the council or not. But in this case, you asked me first, and so because we met at a meeting and we were talking about this, and then I met with your administrator and said, oh yeah, we have to go to council for this. So it's both sides in agreement.
Mr. President,
Mr. Yazbek.
somebody's had an ongoing request for fixing of a light. Yeah, I'll make the motion that the administrator be authorized to sign the letter of intent to bring back her findings after research for the council for further action.
Motion by Councilor Yazbek, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Zulinski, is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote please.
Mr. McGee. Mr. Yazbek.
Yes.
Mr. Swain.
Yes.
Mr. Flaherty.
Yes. And at this point, I'm going, thank you very much, Mr.
You're
Broadhead.
quite welcome. Thank you very much.
We're very pleased to be working with you on this.
Mrs. Hamilton, I'm still young,
I'm going to move on to item D, discussion by council vote or other action on aggregate electricity purchase for the town, because it's related to this, and we also have another person who's been exceptionally patient. So, sir, could you please state your name for the record?
Let me clear my detritus here.
Good evening. Mark Capadona, Colonial Power, 277 Main Street, Marlboro.
I just want to make sure, could you spell your last name, please?
Absolutely. Capadona, C-A
PPA deal in it. Good evening, I'm here to talk to you about municipal aggregation and what it can do for the city of town of Smithfield. Municipal aggregation was passed in 1997, actually Rhode Island was one of the first states to do it. It's never been completed here in Rhode Island. No town has ever done so. Colonial Power Group has actually done some 20 different aggregations in Massachusetts. The laws are very similar. What it really comes down to is control and choice, both of which you don't have right now. So what it means is there's a local process that needs to happen, and then you have to go to the state for approval. Once that's done, you would take everyone that's on basic service, currently getting National Grid basic service price, and bring them out to the marketplace however you decide. Meaning if you wanted to go for a 2-year rate, if you wanted to go for 100% green price, if you want to have something covered by RECs, you get to decide for how long you want to go and what kind of power you're looking for. This all comes at no cost to the community. Colonial Power does this, and there's a fee that Colonial charges on the supply rate, and it doesn't cost the community anything to do this. And that's municipal aggregation in about a minute and a half.
Has anybody in the council been familiar with this type of activity before? Is this new?
Well, going out in the marketplace is not new to try to secure, whatever it is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right now, the League of Cities and Towns does it for the municipal buildings extremely well.
That's our direct
And
energy.
so what you're talking about is taking this town-wide, all of
The citizens and small businesses and large businesses, every year in the community. That's correct. The exact same type of savings.
And here's the issue that I've run across. In the past, and it happened to myself, and it's happened to a number of my clients, they go out into the marketplace, they enter into a contract, they forget how long the contract is, 2, 3, 4 years. The contract ends, all of a sudden, the rates skyrocket. It takes you 3 or 4 months to understand that the rates have skyrocketed and why, and that would be good at 3 or 4 months. Other people, it takes over a year. I just had a case where it's been over a year, and they're at a rate that's 3 times what the national grid rate is right now, or 4 times. So, is there anything built into this whereby everybody who's on the plan would get notified by someone, or can we, if you're gonna go, if the next council's gonna go forward with it, because it doesn't sound like it's something that this council's gonna have a chance to finalize in 3 more meetings. But the only thing that I would strongly recommend, Councilor Zawinski, is make sure that there's a provision in whatever contract you have that there has to be proper notification. Because as I understand it right now, there is no requirement in this state to notify somebody when these contracts are coming due, and they're just waylaying people.
Yeah, this is different.
And this is very different.
Yeah.
What you're saying is absolutely correct.
Right.
But these contracts, this requires everyone to get an individual piece of mail, and I want to make sure that I'm very clear on this. It's an opt-out aggregation. Opt-out, meaning that everyone is in unless they sign something or send an email, from a website or phone call. But it would include everyone until they created an action to opt out of the program. But the contract comes up annually, semi-annually, depending upon how long the town wanted to go. And then the town signs the contract with the supplier.
So, which doesn't, no offense, but, yeah, I mean, the town isn't real good at recognizing what its deadlines are, with all due respect to the administration. They got 1,000,001 things going on, and one problem after another, one fire to put out.
And that's what you would hire a company like Colonial.
So that's gonna be your responsibility to say, hey, look, Madam Administrator, you're in the 23rd month of a 24-month contract, we gotta do something
It
with
would probably be close to the 18th month.
Or
Yes,
whatever.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
it. All right, so that's gonna be your job.
That's correct.
And you get paid by taking a commission from the ultimate supplier, is that how you get paid?
That's exactly correct, sir.
Excuse me, and that would be similar to direct energy. They let us know, I wanted to get them on this, this agenda, but it was so full, so bring it back to 10/20. But they're telling us, okay, in November, you're coming up for renewal, we want to go out and get you some rates locked in right now for it. And you can choose 1, 2, or 3 years, so that's where we are with them right now. This would give the entire town that same opportunity. Small businesses, residents, everybody can.
Anyone that's on basic service would still have the ability to share in those savings.
And it's only the power generation, it's not the supply, it's not the maintenance, not all that other garbage.
For all basis, for the end user, National Grid is still there to meter, to transmission, distribution, bill, any of those issues, the lights go up. This is only the electrons running through the wire. And it's still a single bill, there's just a one line item change.
Right, okay.
I'm not quite sure I understood this.
Yeah.
So it sounds, on the surface, it sounds pretty good. But are you saying that a council would be committing to would commit the residents and commercial to sign on to this power?
So the way it works is everyone receives a mailing before the program starts. Let's say it was going to start in November. And at the beginning of October, there's a 30-day opt-out period. So if you didn't want to be part of the program, you could opt out before it ever started.
That's where it kind of went a little fuzzy with me. So I'm a homeowner,
Yes,
and a council decides for me that they're going to purchase electricity at a reduced rate, not only for my residential, my neighbors, but also for commercial. If I do not respond with this opt-out piece of paper, I'm going to be changing my electrical usage from the grid to Colonial.
absolutely correct.
And saving money is a
I
process.
love saving money, but, okay.
So,
Just a little hesitant on this, that for me,
Understood.
as a resident, to say, who the hell is that town council to tell me who I'm gonna get my electricity?
I feel the same way.
I like the idea. How
Yeah,
about if they opt in instead?
well, and that's always the argument. So in the electricity world, you need a load profile, something that they know that they can bid on. That's what drives down price. We don't know who will opt in. That's why opt-in programs don't work so well, and people kind of take advantage of the residents. And that's why these programs are overseen by not only the legislature, the PUC, but the towns. In this scenario, the way I look at it is, these decisions are made every day by the communities. By you set our tax rate, you take a water rate, this rate. We don't get a chance to opt out of that. All you're really doing is bringing choice. If they don't like it for any reason, they can opt out at any time with our program. Not opt out just in the first 30 days before it starts. Say 3 months from now they don't like the product anymore, they got a better deal somewhere. Opt out, there's no fees to opt out, there's no penalties to opt out. So you're really just bringing choice.
No penalties from Colonial, but help me understand, if someone opted out of Colonial and went back to the grid, is there any surcharges or anything else tied to that?
There is not.
Okay.
There is not.
And how much do you save on an average house of $100 a month? How much would we save?
It just depends on the time. Like right now, there's tremendous savings. Tremendous. Right now, so in the city of Lowell, they're getting a 100% green product at 10.8 cents, and National Grid's basic service rate would be 16 cents. The average savings would be about $45 a month.
and we have been to seminar after conference, after meeting, after lead meeting, telling us, get ready, that the electric bills are going to go up 30, 40, 50% in the next several months. So when we started speaking with Mark, we said, oh, this is a great opportunity. If we do a good educative kind of proposal, let people know, like we're doing with the solarized North Smithfield type of thing. So let people know that this is a great opportunity for them, and there are no penalties for them if they choose, for whatever reason, they don't want to, or, I don't know, some other company gives them a better kilowatt hour. But right now, we have something like 6.8 cents per kilowatt hour for direct energy, and they're telling us we can go up to 10. We're going to jump on the 10 right now until a product, like this comes available, because we know that that's going to escalate exponentially over the next several months.
I think the key is what you said just a moment ago, which is that there's no restriction to when a person can opt out at any time without penalty.
At any time without penalty, and the residential consumer, in our contract, we required the supplier to allow them back in. So just say that you said, Councilor, I don't like the program for whatever reason in January. Then in June, you said, geez, I made a mistake, I'd like to get back in. If it's a residential user in our contract, it states that they can get back in the program. A bigger user, a big G3 user that could actually impact supply, that one they would have to come back at actually market rate. But a residential user would have no impact on the supply contract. So it does give it, the residential user, complete flexibility in a brand new marketplace.
So what type of, what are you seeking this evening for any action?
So there could be some language that was passed here. What really needs to happen, the process at the local level, we need to have a plan. you need to choose a company like Cloning. Then there would have to be a plan created, that would have to have a public hearing, voted on twice at town council, and then that plan goes on to the Department of, here it's the PUC. Once approved there, it never binds you to anything until there's a contract in front of you, and then even at that point, you have to give someone at the town administrator the authority to sign. That'd be under basic service or what have you.
Okay, sounds like a good idea, Mr. President. I think that we should have a plan in front of us. We'll have 2 public meetings that will be soundly vetted by the public. We'll have different perspectives on this, no doubt. But if we can save money, why not save money?
And Councilor Zelinski is the only one of us that will be sitting up here
Well,
after November.
There's
Fourth.
potential
Minister.
cancel, Councilor Alter is here. I say potential, there is a write-in candidate.
So,
I may not be here, I could be, somebody could write me right out.
does it require taking a step this evening, or is it just that you're looking for consensus about moving forward?
Consensus.
There is some language that can be passed, and it's not required to be in Rhode Island.
Okay. So we'll look forward to if you can communicate with the administration on setting up the timetable for the next reviews and vetting the plans and setting up the public workshop, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
You know, I'd like to thank you, it's a great idea. I'm sorry you had to wait and get rushed, but we're gonna look at this.
No problem, thank you very much.
Okay. With about 5 minutes left
Well, let's,
or so, we have, I think we can do this fairly quickly. Item B, discussion by council vote or other action on October 23rd bridge closure information night. This is, I think, more of a commercial.
Very, very quickly, it's basically the Rhode Island Department of Transportation and the SBA that will be coming to town. We're having a town hall meeting to explain to people how the bridge closure will affect them in their daily lives, and also to help businesses with the potential for any kind of revenue loss. So we'll have the SBA there as well to allow them to get some ideas on how they might get some additional financial assistance if the bridge is closed. You know, in a period of time, they're going to give us some streetscape examples, and we can't hold them to a date. Hasn't went out to bid yet, but it's scheduled for repair in 2015. So we want to just give people a heads up, let them know ahead of time what's happening, and try to offer as much as we can to small businesses.
Kudos for being proactive and getting this out there, because it's much better to be doing this than to be reacting the week after they close the bridge and people are panicking. And they can't. I know that the pizza guy is telling me that 60% of his business, his delivery business, is across the bridge, and so.
Yeah, I think you're gonna find that too. Where and at what time on the 23rd?
I'm sorry, that's at Kendall Beach
Thank you.
from 6 to
Thank you.
7:30 p.m. on the 23rd.
6 to 7:30?
Yes. And we'll be sending out additional information.
And then we have our final item, which is E. Of October, yeah. Discussion by council vote or other action on appointment of deputy town clerk, appointed by the town administrator with town council approval.
Yes, well, I got a nice note from Mrs. Todd today, because this is, somebody that's working closely with her. And she's been with us since mid-August. She's doing extremely well. She's very willing to learn, always goes the extra mile. She's very good with people. She's been working alone now. That has been able to bring her up to speed on a lot of things. And she's also going to be Mrs. Todd's backup for council meetings, so that when she has a vacation, she can really have a vacation.
What is this
so,
person's name?
Joanne Butti, B-U-T-T-I.
Buddy, it's actually Buddy.
how do you spell it?
B-U-T-T-I-E. She's tremendous. She's a very outgoing person, and the way she does things is the way Mrs. Todd suggests, which works just fine. So I'm just hoping to, I told her I would begin in November. She has another part-time job right now, but she'll be kind of winding that down, and we'll be working full-time at the beginning of November. But I'd like to appoint her to the position for everyone's benefit, including hers and Mrs. Todd, so that she can.
And the town residents.
Yeah, she's
Mr.
tremendous. She's
Mr.
very.
President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the town administrator's appointee of assistant town clerk, deputy clerk. Ms. Buddy is that appointee? That's a motion.
Motion by Councilor Zawinski, is there a second?
Somehow there was a motion.
Seconded by Councilor Yadabat, is there any discussion?
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. President.
All in favor?
Aye.